Hey everyone. So, as we all know, Amazon PPC can get a little bit complicated sometimes, and that's just the nature of the beast, I suppose. One thing we wanted to do in this video was lay out some of the weekly checks that we do at Red Dog PPC so that if you're not really sure what you're doing on your accounts or where you can kind of make the most impact on a week-to-week basis, I would start with these 5 things that we're going to go through. Although they're quite basic, they can have quite a dramatic effect on your account. So what are the 5 things we're going to go through? So first one's pretty obvious, bid optimization. Second one, budget optimization. Find that that's something that maybe is often overlooked. Number 3, keyword harvesting. Number 4, non-converting search terms or negation. And then number 5, an inventory check. So obviously that's also really, really crucial when it comes to your advertising or PPC. You don't want to be advertising if you don't have any stock. So bid optimization. Yes, we are stating the obvious first, so bear with me a bit. Once or twice weekly bid optimizations are just an absolutely essential part of any kind of account management. So what I would say to people is try and stick to the same days each week if you can, as much as possible. Obviously, this is going to change during maybe a launch, or maybe you've got a real increase in budget because you're pushing towards a certain goal and you really want to keep a close eye on that account, especially for the first week. I mean, there are lots of reasons why you might be doing more frequent bid optimization or kind of looking into your accounts more often. But I would say just at the core level, once or twice a week, making those optimizations is really, really crucial. The other thing to say is obviously optimizing every day for the most part really isn't a good idea. We need to look at quite a large amount of data when we're doing optimizations to make sure that we're taking the right changes. And if we're making changes every day and not really letting the data speak to us, then we're going to have some problems going forward. Now, what I would say for this as well is when we're looking at keywords and targets in the bid optimization, we should look at various look back windows. So what I mean by that is, I usually start by looking at what's happened in the last 7 days, just to kind of get an idea about how the accounts moved in the last week. And then I'll go to 30 days, maybe longer look back periods, depending on, which campaigns I'm optimizing, which keywords, because obviously sometimes, there might be a couple of weeks where certain keywords just aren't performing as well. Maybe there's, a competitor that's got a deal on. So actually for that main keyword, when you're popping up, customers are seeing a really good deal. So maybe clicking on your ad, but, maybe it's appearing on your product detail page and clicking off. There's lots of different factors that can affect how your keyword's performing. I wouldn't just take a 7-day window as like the gospel for what we need to do for bid optimization. So that's just one thing to mention. Budget optimization. Now, obviously the budgets tab makes this really, really super easy. Okay, so there's not much to it. We go into the budgets tab on Amazon, filter by average time in budget, less than 100%. That will bring up all of the campaigns which have been running, but running out of budget. And then you can start filtering that by performance metrics. So I would say something like, average time in budget, less than 100%. But if the ROAS on my account is, the target ROAS on my account is 4, I might put in that filter for campaigns showing a ROAS above 4, but running out of budget. These are the campaigns that I probably want to increase the budget for. It will also give you a suggested budget most of the time. Obviously, depending on your account budget limits, etc., take those with a pinch of salt, just start increasing them little by little if you're really kind of concerned about it. But, this is something that you don't want top performing campaigns to be running out of budget. Okay. It will also give you data about missed clicks, sales, impressions. So this is an example of what that looks like. As you can see, it says, thankfully right now, no campaigns are out of or almost out of budget. But here you can see the filters. So I've selected enabled because we don't care about campaigns that aren't turned on. And then average time in budget, less than 100%. what you can then do is look at campaigns that are above or below your performance metric target, and then make decisions on what you want to do with the budgets. I think one thing that people always talk about is like increasing the budgets. But actually, one thing that I do often do, maybe not even weekly, maybe monthly, is I will look at campaigns that have been performing well below the campaign target, or the account target, and then I'll look at seeing, do we really need as high a budget on this campaign? So sometimes, looking at it from a budget reduction point of view as well is quite important. But this will kind of give you a lot of information and show you the line of estimated missed sales. Take it with a pinch of salt, but obviously it's a really, really important thing, and Amazon's made it really super easy. So again, it's something that you should be doing weekly. It takes 2 minutes, obviously depending on how many campaigns you have. Then non-converting search terms. Okay, so again, this is something you can do weekly. I would do it weekly, especially on bigger accounts or accounts where the spend is quite high. It might be the sort of thing that you want to do a little bit less frequently than once a week. But, again, I would just sit there and say the filters that we would put in place typically are keywords or targets with, let's say, 20 plus clicks and no sales. Now, that obviously depends on your account, what the cost per click is, what the product price is. So that's going to move, for one account, they're not going to be able to go much beyond 15 clicks with no sale. For another account, it might be that you could get to 100 clicks with no sale and still not want to negate it because for some, the product price is really high and the CPC is really low, etc. It really does depend. But I would say that on average, what we tend to see is 20 clicks and no sale. You should start to look at whether you actually need that keyword on the account or not. So one thing we say is think, is this key search term? Is it? So if you've got, say, a desktop monitor and you're trying to sell that and your keyword is desktop monitor, really, because it's quite a specific keyword, you might leave that a little bit longer and give it a bit more leeway than you would office supplies or office equipment, because obviously that's a lot less specific to the actual item. So look at things like the CPC, how many clicks has it had, what's the product price. There are so many things to consider here, but once you have your number, so say that's 20, you can start filtering the targeting tab on Amazon. So again, really, really easy. You can do this once a week. Go to the targeting tab, sales equals 0 as a filter, and then clicks greater than 20, or whatever you want to set that as. And it's really interesting to play around with this. And then you can start scrolling through and seeing if there's anything that you need to remove, anything that you need to drop the bid for. There's lots of different actions you can take depending on what you find, but really this check is really super quick. Then keyword harvesting. So again, should be done at least once a fortnight, really, if not weekly. Again, depends on the size of the account and maybe how aggressive you are on the account as well. Maybe you're happy checking this once a month, but typically we do try and check this once a week. So reviewing the search term reports for any new keywords that are popping up, any new targets that are popping up. If there's anything in broad phrase auto campaigns that started to get in traction, maybe that's something we want to kind of push. And then also, are there any keywords working well in sponsored products that need to be moved to sponsored brands, for instance? So one thing we've done with a lot of clients recently is taken top performing sponsored products keywords and transitioned them into other sponsored brand campaigns, sponsored brand video campaigns. So there's a lot of things that you can do once you've got these keywords. But again, we don't want to be sitting on the data, especially if we've got quite a heavy number of broad phrase and auto campaigns on the account. The whole point is about discovery. So, don't sit on the discoveries. And then one of the last things we'll talk about is inventory checks. So do you have any ads targeting low inventory SKUs? Do you have any ads targeting SKUs with no inventory? Obviously one of the worst sins to commit on Amazon is just completely run out of stock. And obviously once you get below a certain stock level, it will really start to impact the way that Amazon shows you, because they don't trust that, you're going to be able to to provide the products to the customers. And Amazon is very customer centric, so they're going to go with the sellers that have the stock and are more reliable. So if you are out of stock really, or kind of running very, very low, quite often it's best to just turn off ads. And it's probably not something you hear ad agencies say all the time. I know a lot of people say just reduce them right down. You don't want to turn off the advertising completely. But actually, quite often what happens when we're running out of stock is the metrics get worse, the conversions get worse, Amazon doesn't want to show you, you're dropping bids, just trying to keep it really, really low running. But what you've done actually is you've just kind of ruined all of the data that you had from a campaign that was running well when it had stock. So it's better sometimes to just turn them back off and then turn them back on when you've got the stock, because at least your campaign is still at the level that it was previously, if that makes sense. So you've not kind of messed with it and gone really downhill. But inventory is one that is really, really important. I know that this one's maybe a bit trickier. So obviously you can do the checks in Seller Central for if anything is running low in stock, going and having a look into the advertising. On our end, we have software that does this. It makes it a lot easier. But if you don't do that, then that's fine. You can still do that manually. Obviously, the more SKUs on the account, the more difficult that becomes. So if you do have an account with, hundreds of SKUs, I would just really recommend some tracking software for that to do it for you, because otherwise it can be a bit of a mess. But yes, if you're running low on stock, quite often the best thing to do is just turn off ads. But those are the 5 checks that we would recommend weekly as a baseline. Obviously, there's so many more things that we could talk about, but really just keeping it quite simple, that's what we would say. So thanks for watching the video, and follow our YouTube channel for more. But